the mess with napkins, she said, "None of them was even your type." "How do you know my type?" "Were they?" Eve asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. She hooked a thumb in Cree's direction. "Is he?" "My type?" Kate shook her head. "Yes." No, wasn't that the point? The men she dated were like seat fillers at award ceremonies. One person vacates and another takes his place. Simple as that. Behind them, her latest seat filler, the very good-looking lead singer, Cree, better known to mere mortals in nearby Livingston circles as Charlie Malone, had been belting out a drinking song about dirt roads, pickup trucks, and hot girls in cut-off shorts. No one would argue his talent. He'd probably be in Nashville within the year. With that rockabilly dark hair, those blue eyes, and his penchant for ink, he looked like every other musician these days. He'd even inscribed her name on a small blank spot on his forearm, a poor decision from which she'd tried to dissuade him. But her name was already lost there in his sleeve of tattoos, and she supposed he could always turn the thing into a spiral or a cat or something that would blend in. Before the next song, after he played an expert riff on his guitar, he pointed to Kate with a possessive nod, then punctuated that look with an onstage guzzle of beer. Several girls at the front tables who looked barely old enough to be in this bar squealed for his attention. Kate wondered where their parents were.
"This song's for my sexy, red-haired lady, Katie Cat Kennedy, sitting right over there."
He purred a little drunkenly into the microphone. He followed this horrifying mangling of her name with an embarrassing cat yowl. With all eyes suddenly on her, Kate slid down in her chair. Beside her, Eve and Olivia shared a private, confirming eye roll. "What?" Kate said from behind the hand, shielding her eyes. "It's not like I'm going to marry him. He's performing." Olivia gestured with a meaningful tip of her head toward a nearby table, where the Belmers, parents of one of her current kindergarten students, were staring at her with undisguised horror after Cree's shout-out to her, their red wine glasses frozen halfway to their mouths. Drat. She would hear about this one on Monday. And here it was, barely September and only 2 weeks into the school year. She pasted on her most professional smile and finger-waved at the Belmers, who turned away whispering to one another. "Look, I'm not one to judge, Kate," Olivia said, leaning across the table. "That's not what this is about. But your life is not exactly, uncomplicated. You're a kindergarten teacher in a very small town. And a guy like that, he will ruffle some feathers." She knew that. Of course she did. Most of the men she'd dated were lower profile than Cree, and she had no rational answer as to why she'd agreed to go out with him. "Technically speaking," she said in her own defense, and not a little bitterly, "I'm a laid-off kindergarten teacher. Long-term sub doesn't quite qualify." She'd been caught in a last-in, first-out situation when budget cuts had forced layoffs. The school had kept her employed, temporarily, thanks to the beloved kindergarten teacher, Betty Moynihan, whose mother had the good grace to break her leg this month and suddenly needed Betty's help. "You know they'll hire you back full-time next year as soon as the budget thingy gets resolved," Eve said. "They love you there." Whether they did or not was a moot point. Their budget thingy was about to become her budget thingy. Betty was due back in November, and she was counting the days and her pennies. Still, she supposed she was simply pushing the envelope with Cree, but, truthfully, her life felt like it was starting to fly out of control like a spin painting, with bits of her casting about, looking for a handhold. Reluctantly, she admitted that Olivia and Eve might have a small point. at least.
Para seguir escuchando este audiolibro gratuitamente, haz clic en el enlace de la descripción y podrás escucharlo completo sin coste gracias a la prueba de 30 días de Audible.